all the books I read in February, fresh, new fiction recommendations for you because I did not read any non-fiction this month. Let's begin. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice and I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. I actually have nothing to say. Let's just start with the books. Feb has been a roller coaster of a month where the beginning was good for like 2 books and then the middle was like and then the end was like but in a good way. So it's been a roller coaster, and I've read a lot of the good books towards the end and in the beginning. So you want to skip the middle part, I have put timestamps. You can skip the middle part, but don't skip on the beginning and the end of the video. They're good books. First and foremost, let's start with The Mountain and the Masters by Anurag Sharma. The book is about Arya, who has been through a lot, and when I say a lot, since his childhood, he has had people that he loved and then he has lost them. He has gone through so much pain, but in all of that pain, one thing that has always stood rigid for him, that is always there for him, that is like the point of his love, are the mountains. Since a very long time, he has always been thinking about going into the mountains. Oh, I love the mountains, the mountains, the mountains. There's an obsession with the mountains, and I am not a mountain person. I am a beach person. So you would think that I wouldn't understand what the love for mountains mean, but I did understand because it's written like that, and it made me sort of look at the mountains in a different way. And then something extremely horrible happened, something that's way more horrible than what happened in his past, after which he's like, I give up. That's it. This is the end. I'm just not going to be hopeful anymore because nothing ever really works out for me, and only horrible things happen to me. But because of a friend, he sort of gets out of that hole, and he realizes that there is this one thing that he has been wanting to do since a very long time, which is go into the mountains. So he goes into the mountains and he meets people and he learns things, and it's this beautiful journey of evolution mixed with spirituality and magical realism. And basically, if you like books like The Alchemist, if you like books like 40 Rules of Love, which can be cheesy here and there, and I know that some people don't like it, but people like me who are like obsessed with it, who see it as sort of like a grounding point for yourself, because The Alchemist was the first book I ever read and it made me feel so seen and it made me feel so heard. So if you like books like that, then this is going to be the most perfect book for you. Add that Indian mix to it. I feel like spiritual books get to a point where you're like, wait, what are they even saying? Like, this makes no sense. But this book was grounded in the emotional side of it. There was just so much warmth. Yes, I feel like some of the wise parts of the book, or some of the, some parts of the book, they may feel a little over the top, but when it hits, and it may hit for you. It is also only like around 150 pages, so it's very easy to read. Now if you are in India, it is only available on Kindle, which is just sad because I want the physical copy of this book. The cover is just so beautiful and so apt for the story. I just cannot wait for this book to be published in a paperback version in India. But if you are outside of India, of course you can get the paperback version. It's a very easy book to read. If you are at all like a nature stan, like you love nature and you love learning from nature, if you want to experience what it is like when life happens to you in a good way and in a hurtful way, then this is your book. It was a beautiful experience. I loved it so much. It did get a little bit cheesy for me, and so I'm giving it 4 stars. Also because it was just not long enough. I feel like if it was a little bit longer, there were certain things that could have been developed more. Only because of these 2 reasons, I'm giving this book 4 stars. That was the first good book I read. The second good book that I read, and it's not yet available in India, but as soon as it is, I will put the link in the description. We have Happiness Falls by Angie Kim, which is the story of Mia, whose father goes missing, and now she is just looking back at the entire situation. She's looking back at everything that happened, and she's like, is there anything that I could have done because of which my dad would not go missing? Sounds a little bit like a mystery book where, oh, what happens to the missing person, what happens to the dad, things like that. But I don't think that it is a mystery book. I think it is a proper literary fiction, and you guys know I love literary fiction to the core of my heart. It's one of my most favorite genres ever, and so I enjoyed this book so much. It's written from the point of view of Mia, who is like this really analytical overthinker. She analyzes every single detail of her life, but in this book she's not analyzing the future, or she's not analyzing the present. It is written from a perspective of regret. It is written from the perspective of, oh, things have already happened and now I'm going to think about it and be like, wait, what could I have done? And there's so many parts in this book where when Mia overthinks, I'm like, that is me is Mia. Sometimes it does not feel like you're reading about a character who's going about their day. It feels like the character is talking to you, and then they know that you're reading them, so they talk to you as a reader. And that is just so cool when there are all of these brackets and the things that you're supposed to read between the lines. You don't have to read them between the lines because Mia says them. I think that was really cool. And thirdly, it talks about the angel man. I think that's how you pronounce it, syndrome, which I did know a little bit about it, but I have never in my life read a book that goes deep into what that means and what it is like. This one is a full-on character study on that because Mia's brother has it, and oh god, did it get painful. Like, it was so painful in parts, like here and there, but also so this is the kind of book where they're talking about something that is informative, talking about something that is raising awareness, but it's not on your face raising awareness. It is talking about it in terms of human experience, and so you know what it feels like. You don't just know, oh, this is what happens, you know what it feels like. And I love that way of talking. I love it when books do that, when you know what things feel like. It gets philosophical. It is one hell of a journey, and honestly speaking, I think in certain parts it gets a little boring because whenever like the happiness things happen, it talks about it in a very technical manner. I really wish that those were also written in the way in which the entire book has been written, in the way in which the book talked about the angel man syndrome, all of that. But apart from that, every single part of this book I love. It has not left my mind. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Next up, we have What You Are Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama and translated by Alison Watts. And this can be actually counted like in the good books that I read, but I did not talk about it first because I was reading one chapter every day. Different characters at different stages of their life just end up going into this particular library, and the librarian over there ends up giving them a book recommendation. All of these stories of different people are different, but as you read ahead, they intermingle with each other in a beautiful manner. When you think about stories like this, you're like, oh, it's going to be like this life-changing book, and I really want those recommendations and things like that. The kind of books that have been recommended and then the way they are impacting these people, it was just so cozy because they were not all books like, oh, you should improve your life, oh, this is how you change your life completely. They are books that make you just look at your life, existing life, and be like, hey, I'm kind of happy with this. Hey, I really want to explore this part of myself that already exists, this part of my life that already exists. It basically shifts your perspective. I love it when books don't push you to just completely like revamp your entire life. It's cozy, it's beautiful. It made so many of my mornings beautiful, like at least for a week or something. Japanese literature, this side of Japanese literature when it comes to the cozy part, nothing compares to it. Language is extremely easy. If you have never read Japanese literature before, you can start with this. If you have read The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams, which was one of my most favorite books in 2023, and you want a book like that, you can read this. Though the vibe is very different because this is Japanese literature that had a lot of like Indian tones in it. 4 stars. After that, I read 4 books for the Valentine's Day video, which is my friend set me up on blind dates with books. That was the beginning of the end. The first book I read and then DNF was The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shen. This is the story of this girl whose father is the mafia don. Wow, I've completely forgotten about this book already. She is from a powerful mafia family. Her future is already decided. Her fate is already decided. She is not allowed to go and get education. She is not allowed to go and get a job. Then this Senator Wolf just comes into play, like literally out of nowhere, and he just decides that, oh, you're gonna be my wife. Because he basically just does, okay, I don't want to crib about it right now. If you love mafia romance, I think you will really like this book. I DNF'd it, and I DNF'd it after reading like a good part of it because there was just too much of like, I don't care, you know, and I just cannot stand for what Wolf has done. I am always there for these villainous main characters, then the villain gets the girl and all of that. I love that. But this one was just not it because I feel like Wolf was a genuinely bad person. I just feel like he did things that are just not redeemable. Next up, I read Writers and Lovers by Lily King, which was a saving grace actually after that book. This is the story of a woman who has not recently, but she lost her mother and now she's done with the grieving part and now she has to move on with her life, but at the same time she doesn't really know where she's going and they're in that limbo, in that lost phase. That part of the book is glorious. It is beautiful. Oh, it was so good because there are so many things that Casey deals with which I think all of us deal with, even though we may not have gone through that trauma. And if you have gone through that trauma, I think it can also be very relatable, but also trigger warning, so you should just like read the trigger warning. There were some quotations in the book that were so beautiful and so relatable. There were certain analogies which I was like, oh my god, like who even thinks about this? But then comes the romance side of it, and this also is a love triangle, and I just don't like love triangles, and so I do not like the romance side of it. Again, I've talked more about it in the vlog, so you can go and check that out. It is definitely easy to read and it's more of a literary romance than a typical romance book, and I do recommend it because maybe it's not my cup of tea, but it may be yours. I gave this 3.5 stars. Next up, we have The Last Gift of the Master Artist by Ben Okri, which was just such a beautiful book. When I started reading it, I think highlighted every single page in this book. Like how much ever I have read, I have highlighted some part of it because it's the most beautifully written book. But I think that you have to be in a very certain place to read this book because it's not exactly one story going on. It's like fables. It's a lot of folk stories come together, and it also talks about some really important topics, and I was just not in the space for that, firstly, and secondly, space is actually like really difficult for me to get to because I don't read a lot of books like this, so I DNF'd it. And then I read Love on the Second Read by Mika D. Leon. This is the story of two people who work in the same publishing house, and because of the pandemic, the publishing house has suffered and it's about to close down, but there is this one project that can save their careers and the publishing house. They are rivals and they have never seen eye to eye, but now they have to work with each other. This was the perfect book to read on Valentine's Day, and it was so cute and cozy and cheesy in a very good way, and nerdy because both of them are nerds, both of them are readers. If you have read like Lord of the Rings series and you know The Hobbit and things like that, I think it will be way more relatable for you because I have not read it, so there were parts that I did not understand, but even after not totally relating, it was really cute and really cozy. And then the guy is like, oh, I watch these rom-coms, and they talk about rom-coms and they talk about the romance genre, and they're teaching each other what different genres can be like. If you like to read stories about people working in the publishing industry with like this backdrop of books and love for books, and if you want to read a book where books and romance all comes together, then this is your book. Super duper easy to read, super duper interesting to read, and I highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. The Valentine's Day video was when I fell into a reading slump. After that, I kept trying to read for like 10 days and I couldn't read anything, and then I started reading this book, which is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is the story of the invisible life of Addie LaRue. No, this is the story of Addie LaRue, who has made a deal with the devil to live forever, but the downside of it is that she is going to be invisible. That is, even if she meets somebody, they will never remember her ever. It took me a little bit of time to get into this book, but once I was beyond like the 50-60 pages, I just could not stop reading it. It's not supposed to be the book that you read when you're in a reading slump, but it was just so beautifully written that I could not stop. However, the highlight of the book for me was not Addie LaRue. The highlight of the book for me was this other character, this other character, Henry. I think about Henry at all points in my life. Oh God, Henry talked about what it's like to be forgotten, how Addie LaRue lives, the difficulties, the pain. So yeah, overall it's a very painful book, and I enjoyed a lot of the book. So I was like, oh my god, I'm in a reading slump, so now am I suddenly going to have a 5-star book on my hand? No, I did not, because unfortunately the ending of the book did not satisfy me that well. The last chapter, the way it ended for Addie LaRue, I did not want that ending. The vibe completely shifted from this really vulnerable place to being like, oh look, haha, I'm so cool. And I do see how people would dig that. I mean, it does show a character arc, and I get all of that. It just did not do it for me, and so in the end it was a 4.5-star book. Everybody that says it's too slow, blah 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 blah, that's not true. Yeah, it goes into detail of a lot of things, but it's very important if you want to understand and feel everything. There was no wastage of time or words. Next up, I read The Catch by Amy Leah because a good romance always gets you out of a reading slump. This is a story of Melanie, who is a fashion influencer, and she is not going through a good time financially and she has to support herself and her brother. So somebody reaches out to her that if you do this campaign for us in this particular place, then you know there's payment, blah blah. So she goes to that place, but then they're like, oh wait, it has moved to the next week, but we will pay you to live somewhere else. She lives in a B&B which is not open. She meets Ivan, I'm not sure how to take the name, and he's this grumpy guy and he's like, what are you doing over here? It's not really open. And she's like, no please, I have to live over here, like I have nowhere to go. And then Ivan's sister comes and she's like, oh, you can live over here. This book gave me major It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey vibes. Oh god, and that is one of my most favorite books ever. The only thing that was sort of missing from this book, and I don't mind that at all, is the spice that was there in It Happened One Summer. I do think that it's a very proper spicy book. This one was not as spicy, though it is spicy. It's an adult romance, so don't read it if you're a teenager. Ivan is just so adorable, man, like so adorable. I loved it. I loved so much about this book. It's such a good romance book if you are looking for a good romance book. If you're like, oh my god, I've not read a good, good old romance rom-com book that just makes me feel good for some time, this is your book. Not too intense, but also not completely like surface level, perfect balance. The only thing which I think was missing from this book, when you go from like not liking each other to falling in love, I think there is a bridge over there, and that bridge was missing in this book. And that bridge was also missing from Set on You that I read last year, and I was just like, something is missing. There's just like this one thing missing. The transition is just not as smooth, and I felt that in this book. That sort of hinders with you believing that they have fallen in love. I just wish there was a longer period of them falling in love, not that, oh, I'm not in love with you and then now, oh, I am in love with you. But there's also fake dating trope in it, and it is done so well. Fake dating is not my most favorite trope, but it is done so well in this book. I do highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. I finished off the month in the most brutal way ever. You read this and you're just like, I'm done. I don't even know how to speak. I don't. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I just turned to this because TJR is just one of those authors who has always gotten me out of reading slump. These books were on my TBR and oh my god, I can't. And then I watched the series on Amazon Prime and I can't. Daisy Jones and the Six is the story of Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a band. They disbanded at the peak of their career. So everybody is like, wait, what happened? What happened? And they have never talked about it ever since they I can't talk about it since they got disbanded. The entire book, if you don't know, is written in an interview style where all of the Six and Daisy Jones, they're all talking. Every other person who's included in the creation and the uprising of Daisy Jones and the Six talk. If you like multiple POVs, dual POVs, this is prime stuff. This is prime stuff because I love multiple POVs. I love it when you're talking about one thing only from different point of views in different chapters. This was talking about one particular thing from different point of views within a paragraph. So easy to read, so fast paced. All of that is amazing. But see, there is a vlog for this and I'm just like, maybe you should wait for the vlog because that has all of my feelings, and I don't know why I feel really overwhelmed right now because this is a painful book. Oh my god, there are lines of this book that haunt me. Like out of nowhere, I'll just be lying down and I'll be like, the love, everything, all of the character. I think I'm gonna cry right now. Okay, this is not how you're supposed to review a book. It's a good book. Taylor Jenkins Reid writes characters who are so painfully self-aware. They know what they're doing. They do it anyway and they rip your heart out. I do highly I'm sorry guys, I am so sorry that the review is not good. There is a vlog, okay? So please don't be like, oh Anchal, what are you doing? Like, how will I know if I want to read it or not? The vlog has like all my views because I was just blurting them out in a vlog. I feel like in a vlog I can do that. So please look out for that vlog. And I gave this book 4.5 stars. But you know what, the way I've just been thinking about this book and the way I've been feeling and how it has overtaken my life, who knows, like as time passes I'll probably give it like 6 stars. Who knows? Because isn't that what like stars mean, that it overtakes your life, so you give it 6 stars. And with that we come towards the end of the video. The sun has gone down, so I'm really sorry if the video was disgusting, but these were all of the books I read. I really hope you got at least one recommendation out of it. Look out for the vlogs, and that's it. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye.